wasn't going to make a video on this today, but this is the final steps of assembling this watch and the balance and everything else. So what I've done, so I've put the roller table on the watch, and now the jewel for the roller table is lined up with the center between the banking pins. So I have to have a look this way to make sure I have a complete alignment. And once I've got that alignment, I put all this on, but I don't put the hairspring on yet. So what I do is take the hairspring and I line it up where it would be, the stud would be attached on the balance cock, and I drop that down exactly where it needs to be. And then right on the end of this balance here, I take a felt pin and I make a little tiny mark on the rim of the balance. Now when I take the balance cock off, now I can push the, I say push because you're not supposed to hammer that on, but push the hairspring collet back on to the balance staff, and everything should be perfectly aligned. So the trick though is to make sure that you actually have an alignment of the impulse jewel between centers here, because this is where the pallet fork is going between the balance. The pallet fork is going between the banking pins, so the alignment would be somewhere, something like this here, because my impulse jewel should be 90 degrees. 90 degrees. Let me see. Look down here. See if that's okay. Should be 90 degrees to the arms of the balance. So when I look at that, you just look at it up close and go sideways a bit, and I can look down into the balance and see where it's residing here. And if I just take my fingy, and move it ever so slightly, yeah, I can see where the impulse jewel is. It's right around there. So actually the balance is it still in place here? Let me see if that's still good. I could do this with the, you see, right around here, which is lined up with that stud perfectly. It's lined up with that, the screw, I should say, not the stud. So right about there is where it's lined up, and that should be perfect. It's not 90 degrees because when I put the roller table on, it was slightly off. So that's good right there. And if I look again at where this stud ends up, yeah, look at that. See, okay, if I'm lining the stud up completely with the balance, so there's where the stud goes into the balance cock. And I go straight down like that, and that is lined up, the stud is lined up with this here. So I get myself a marker, hang on, and so what I want to do now is, I know it's lined up perfectly with this particular balance screw here, so I'm just going to put a mark on the balance screw because I know where that's going. So there's a little red mark on the balance screw, and now when I disassemble this, you can look at that. You can see the little red mark on the balance screw there. Some of it touched the balance cock, I think, as well. It's right on the bottom there. It's right there, and that's where the red mark is. Now when I disassemble this, very carefully of course, and again, like I said, I was listening to the news. I wasn't going to make a video on this, so I disassemble this. Now what I wanted to do is, I don't know if I've cleaned the hairspring yet, so I'm just going to toss that into some lighter fluid. Let that sit there for a while, and then I'll agitate it with some air after, and then I'll let it dry off. But when I lift that up like this, take the balance cock off and look down once again, I can see where that mark is. So there, just move this around this way, and right there. So So that's where the mark is, right there. So it should be perfect. And then when I put the hairspring on the top, everything is perfectly aligned. Then I just need to reassemble the balance cock with the balance and the hairspring after I draw this off. So that's how you do that. So you got some questions for me, let me know. It wasn't exactly perfectly clear. I put the roller table in, I punched it on without showing you how it's done. I found that for the roller table, punching the roller table on, I used a stump and I put the balance on upside down, and then I was able to push the roller table on from the top. Now when I looked through watch repairs manual very quickly, I saw that the way that they do it for single rollers is not like that. For single rollers, they actually put the roller table onto the stump, and they pick a stump that has the opening for the jewel setting. So let me see, or the impulse jewel. Let me grab a stump. They use a stump like this. Just grab that here and put that down. They use a stump like this, put it in the right hole, like that, and you can see how this stump has the opening for the impulse jewel, and you put the roller table down, and then you pound down on the overall balance. And I didn't like this configuration because it didn't let me control or rotate the impulse jewel so that it was perfectly aligned, with generally aligned. I'll say not absolutely perfect, but with 90 degrees with the arms of the balance. And just a shout out to Sonny again. I did bend that balance. All I did was grab it with my fingies like this, and I went I did about 4 times until I saw the balance was again matching. So where the break is in the rim of the balance, or the ring or the rim of the balance, it was off slightly like that. And so I bent one of them back and forth like this. I didn't want to bend it a lot. What my fear was is losing the rivet, where I've riveted the balance onto the staff, onto the staff onto the balance, and twisting that. I was worried about losing the rivet there. So, but it held nicely, so there's no problem. So that's the video. Is really quick, just explaining how you can align all those up to get perfect bead error. As part 2 of this adventure, I do need to find a perfect stump then to hold the balance in while I push the hairspring down. Now, because my staffing or my staking set is an inverto set, it has a base here, I'm able to push the stake. There's the stake I have, and it's got the little groove there for the impulse jewel, and I can push this stake down, just loosen that up, all the way through like this, and then you tighten it. So go right to the bottom like that. Now it's a little bit iffy, so you got to line it up. So you just take your lining up device here, and you push that down so everything is perfectly aligned to center. There we go. And now when I take the roller table out, I don't have to screw this one up here. So hang on. Very carefully, I'm looking where the impulse jewel is in this case, and the impulse jewel is on the end here. So I just want to lower that so that the impulse jewel doesn't get in the way. So I'm just put that down again on the mat and then lift it up again. I'm trying to put 0 pressure on the pivot as I'm rotating this. So just 0.0 pressure like this. And then I can just lower that down onto the stake, which is an inverto stake. Like so. And that should not. And you can kind of see the jewel. The jewel is kind of stuck in there, as you can see. The jewel is kind of in the slot. So now I've got that in the slot. Now I want to make sure I've got that stud perfectly aligned. And if I recall, I look for the red mark on this thing. Not the red mark. I can see the world's smallest hair here. How hairs through static electricity get attached. So I've got this. Now what I want to do is find a stake that can go completely down and push down on this, on the, let's see if that's probably too big. It's too small. So I want to be able to push down on the hairspring. So I got to find another stake to push down on the hairspring. Alright, this stake should do. It just has to be a plain stake, like that. And I just want to make sure that it's clearing the actual stake, there we go. Yeah, it's clearing everything there. And if I look at that down on the hairspring, it should be pushing on the edges of the hairspring. And yeah, that will work. So now what I need to do is lift the hairspring up, turn that around. You're not seeing me turn it around over here on camera, but I need to take this hairspring and I need to push that on so that it's aligned with that stud. So where the heck is that again? It's right there. So that's it right there. So just want to put that down like this. Very carefully. So it's too far over one way, so I just have to very carefully nudge that the other way. Like that. Oop, that looks pretty good there. So let me grab this here and then see if that's centered well enough. Just need to know where that lands once it's... Alright, it's right there, so damn it, that looks pretty darn close. Alright, I want to put this back on very carefully and make sure that the impulse jewel is lined up with the crack in the inverted stake. There we go. And I wanted to make sure that that stud is 100% aligned with the mark I made on the balance. And it looks good. I'm telling you, that ringer is just pissing me off. It's throwing me off. So don't get distracted by things that will distract you. And that is a device I have for security, and it's making all kinds of noise and screwing me up. There we go. It's off. All right. Now everything looks like it's aligned, so all I need to do now is push that hairspring down very carefully. There it is. So that's pushed down, and it should work. It should be nice, right like that. So I'm just going to pick this up with my hands because I tried picking it up with tweezers before and it's way too touchy. So that's that. It's a little bit tricky, that job. So, and it looks perfectly aligned with the red mark I had made here. And everything seems to be in place here. Everything's kosher. So I'm going to see if this thing runs. And also the balance is relatively, I'll say relatively, but true to flat, as you can see. It doesn't have the problem it had before. So that gap is no longer left and right as it had before, right? So it's pretty good. There's a little like a micro whatever there, but I'm not moving that. My concern there was actually having a problem with if I moved it, would it take the rivet off the balance? So now I could install this directly onto the watch like this and turn it upside down, install it, and then I've got a balance with a balance installed on the balance cock. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to rest it down there so I don't break anything. So I'm going to install the balance back in the balance cock using my stereo microscope over there, so I have absolute precision. Alright, so there we go. It's on. I used the stereo microscope to do that job. I hate that job because the slightest move moves that hairspring around. It always makes me super nervous when I'm playing or moving a hairspring anywhere. So now I've got to just install the balance. And I am going to use, I did test the balance without the shims in, and it did not work well. So I'm going to install the balance and then install the shims as part of that. And I'm not sure if I'll do that on camera or not, because it's going to make me crazy nervous doing it. But let's just put the balance in place to start off with. And then I'll shove the shims in. I'll do some shim shoving. I just have to remember that one of the alignment knobs on the balance cock is here, right? An alignment stud. The other one is way up here, so and I've got to go between either side of the screw is where I want to put the shims in. So I can lower this balance and then slide the shims in after. I've got no power on the movement right now, so I want to be able to put this movement in so that the impulse jewel is on the correct side of the pallet fork. So I'll enter it this way and then put it in like that, just like that. So I'll just see if I can do that here. And I might want to put a bit of wind on the movement first. That way I know that there's it's going to stay in place. So I just can wind this just a bit like that. I don't need to wind it a lot, just a little bit. And I got a message from Phil, whose watch this is, and he said that basically the work I'm doing here is, he said something about the atom collider there in Switzerland, I think, and it's about as, he said, if I have to get that tool, I think, then we're in trouble. Anyway, it is a lot of work, Phil. I can't deny that the amount of work done on this watch versus a 21 jewel watch is probably the same. There's not much difference. So in a really nice world, this is going to start ticking as I rotate this into place, but I still know it needs to be shimmed. But you can see a little bit of junior ticking there that I saw. There we go. Look at that. So I got myself a tick. That is a good thing. So that watch is now operational. I don't see a big amplitude on it yet, but I really haven't wound it up and it hasn't settled in. So I do need to put the shims in though. So what I'll do here, I'll let it keep ticking while I shim it. See if I can do that. I don't want to stop it from ticking, but I know if I put pressure on the top here, it's going to stop. See that? It just stops. So I do want to shim this. So I want to have the shim on either side of the screw here. This is going to be tricky to do this under camera, under the pressure of the camera. And if you've got criticism about me doing this way under the pressure of the camera, then don't watch. It's so close to being accurate without shimming though. Yeah, it just needs a little tiny bit. So I'm going to get the world's smallest screwdriver here so I can perhaps lift this up a bit. May not be able to show you this from the other side, but I have no choice. I'm lining that shim up right now, and I'm putting my screwdriver in the slot. And I'm trying to just move the screwdriver from side to side so I can push that shim in as far as I can without interfering with the stud. Or I also don't want that shim to get in the way of the mainspring. So there's that shim is in there now. Now, likely I could put the screw in and it would tighten down and there would be no issue. Likely. Yeah, I'm pushing down on that big time. I may do a single shim. Even though I lectured my butt off about putting two shims in, the amount of angle that I'm looking at is so slight that it might not matter. So I can see it's working perfectly, and I've got that shim in pretty deep right now. All the way in, and then a little back it off just a little tiny bit. And I know the shims are around the same distance across, or the same length, around the same length, so I can take this shim and measure it against the other one. They're not completely the same length, but so that shim is going in about that far. Could probably go in a little tiny bit further, but not much, because then it'll hit the rim of the barrel, right? Which I don't want. The watch is ticking nicely right now. Right about here, I think, is a safe distance. And this is making me super nervous. I got to get my shtick here. My shtick. So Phil, I hope you're enjoying this, because you've given me 3 heart attacks already. So what I want to do here is put a little bit of pressure on the top while I screw this in. Now when I tighten the screw, the question is, good stuff. So I'm looking at the amplitude of this going around the same time I tighten that screw. So let me look at this here. It's pretty much true to flat. It's not too bad. If you can look at that, I'll just show it to you. For a 3,000-year-old watch, that's pretty good there, right? It's pretty much true to flat. It's ticking away. I'm not sure what the amplitude is, but I didn't really put a good wind on it, so I'm sure if I wind it up a bit more, the amplitude will increase. Now I want to look at it sideways, because I want to make sure I don't want to dump the movement here, so tighten this up a bit, like that, so it doesn't go anywhere. And look at that working sideways. That's pretty good. Look at that. Sideways, I got a good amplitude on it. And then the infamous upside down. And it's running well upside down, which is nice. It's a little slower upside down, but not much. So I'm going to let that thing work itself in. Give it a hand here. So what I'll do is let that tick away for a while and see where I'm at. And it looks like it's getting a pretty decent amplitude. And I gave it a little bit of a help there, but let me wind it up just a bit more here. There we go. It's good enough. It's good enough. It's good there. It did go a little slower upside down, which means the jewel's sitting in there, or it's stuck a bit or something, but it looks pretty good. It's running fairly well. I can look at it upside down again and make sure I don't have problems. No, it's ticking away, but it's having a bit of an issue upside down. Sometimes you just have to let it work itself in as well. So that's pretty much the job. So anyway, I'm JD. Thanks for watching this little video on how to do all this stuff. I'm going to publish this one today. That's a lot of videos today. And we'll let this thing work itself in. It's going to take a couple days of running, and we'll see how well it works a little later on. It's an old watch, but it's running fairly well right now. Amplitude looks not too bad, I'd say. Not sure what the beat error is and the rest, but I'll just worry about that one later. And if I have to do any adjustments at all, I will. And if I have to do any adjustments on amplitude, I will. So I'm JD. Thanks for watching my channel, and I'll see you next time. Alright, one last step before I hang it up for the day. I've got this, first of all, I found this device here that's got some feet missing. I don't think those are the right feet. Like this is the right foot right here. So I need to put the feet back on. I gotta find a third foot here. There's a foot missing. What is a foot? So this is the same as a time grapher device, but except it's a pre-printed it's printed and made in China, but it might give me a good enough readout for me to determine what the problems might be on this watch. So I can see that I've got the amplitude is not as high as it should be. It's 159, 160. So let me look at that. So there you go, 159, 160. And I got a beat error of about 3-4 milliseconds, which is not good. So I need to obviously do some work on this to get it going perfectly. So I'm not sure how much more work, Phil, you want me to do on this. Just answer me back. I probably can slow it down a bit. Let me see if I can just do that right now. It's speeding. Is it running slow? Yeah. So I'm going to make it run fast. So I can probably speed it up a bit. Like that. But that might not be sufficient. Still I'm running at minus. No, it's starting to find home here a bit. When I got this thing set up, it was way over, like that, which could mean a few things. It could mean that it could mean that the watch was originally set this way, or it's just not vibrating properly, or all kinds of stuff. Again, it's just more of the same. So now I could speed it up by seeing what the mean time screws look like. Bring this back a bit here, and I could see what the mean time screws are looking like, see whether they're screwed all the way out or what. But that's really slow, and that's a beat error of 4.6, which is too high, way too high. So it's not going to keep good time. I never thought this thing would, but it won't keep good time. So yeah, let me take power off it, have a look at the mean time screws, see if they're out at all on the watch. I guess I could stop it with my finger right now, or my piece of Rodico, very carefully. Let's see, just get a point of Rodico here and stop the watch. Let me go back to here again. And I could add the screen to this too, right? There we go, isn't that cool, eh? So I just added a screen to this so you can see what that looks like. So it is running way too slow though, but if I stop this, let me just throw a piece of Rodico in here. I know I can stop it bravely by doing that. And it doesn't look like the screws on the balance. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any screws in the balance that are far out that I can put back in to adjust the mean time screws. So that is not a good thing. Yeah, so I can't adjust the mean time screws here. That's not good. It looks like I got no real estate there. No, it's not a good plan. So I need a little bit of a diagnostics on this, but I still think I should let it run in for a while, because I've had watches before that, you know, you let them run for a while and all of a sudden everything kind of wears itself in, and all of a sudden it's working fairly good. And this one here has the potential of working really well. It just needs to run itself in, I'm pretty sure. So that's where I'll stop today. Hope you can give me some suggestions if you want, by the way. Hope you enjoyed the video today. It's been interesting, as I say, and we'll catch you next time. Let me just shrink this down a bit for you. Live action, look at that. There we go. Live action display shrinking. And there it is there. That's focused properly now. So yeah, I got to slow this thing or speed this thing up a bit. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. I could undercut the timing screws. I could take one out maybe, or just replace it with a different one. Not sure, but we'll see. I think this is a project that needs a little bit more attention. So I'll figure this out after, but so far everything is good. The main thing was to get the balance in, to get it spinning and get it operating. It's not operating upside down as fast as I would like it to, which might mean that the pivot is still jamming when it's upside down. The pivot is in there, but I can't see any end shake motion on there, so I'm not sure what's happening. It's an old watch, so I'm not sure exactly what to do here if I need to take a little more material off that pivot, which make it work a bit better. And if that's the case, I may end up putting it in a balloon chuck, because I can leave the hairspring on. I know I can adjust the bead error on this. Let me just see if this works live. There we go. That bead error at 4.78. I can figure out whether that's left or right, and then spin the collet ever so slightly to that direction and see if I can get a better bead error. So I can do that and see if I can get this thing running better. Anyway, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching my channel. Let's just continue with the adventure. One last thing I didn't do is that was check for magnetism. So I should demagnetize this guy to see if it's if the magnetism is an issue with this. It's not really swaying or whatever back and forth a lot. The compass is not moving a lot, it's just slightly moving. And that will, there you go. So there we go. You can see the pulsating of the compass ever so slightly. So that means it's magnetized. And it's not going to cure all the problems that I just showed you, but it will help it a little bit. So I get my handy dandy made in China demagnetizer here. This one here, and I could just stick that movement inside the demagnetizer, pull it out again, and then see if that does anything for me. There, as you can see, it's demagnetized now, so it's pretty good. There's no big issues here anymore. Now I need to take the power off the watch in order to actually check and see where that bead error needs to go. So in order to take the power off this watch, you leave it like this. I get my bench key out, and I can put my bench key into the stem where that receives the bench key, and then I use I can use tweezers, or I can use the back of a screwdriver, and what I want to do is hold the top with my finger and the sides this way, because it's going to spin down. So what I want to do is put a little bit of winding pressure on the watch, and then push this device here, which unlocks it on the side, and then let it unwind. I'm trying to do a control unwind, which is sometimes tricky, and it's actually hard on the top of my finger. I was unscrewing my finger there for a second, so I'm just very easily unwinding the watch, dewinding it, and try not to let it spin out, although there have been times where I've let it spin out, but it's not a disaster unless the mainspring gets broken or something. So whenever you're playing with these pocket watches, again, there's a slight chance of it not, see there, the balance died, which is what you want. And now I can just carefully check, if I can, with my glasses here to see where the pallet fork is resting with respect to that jewel. And I'm not sure whether I got to go left or right. Yeah, I am not sure. I can see it in there, and I can see there's pressure on one side. So I get on my other glasses and look deep down into the watch. Even then, with these old buggers, these full plate watches are so difficult to work on. They're especially to get fixed quickly. It's not easy. So I'm looking right into the movement right now to see where that pallet fork is. And I can see from the banking pins. That's a better indication, I think. From the banking pins, I can see that it's over to the left as I view it. See the banking pins there? See, can you see that? If I do that, right on the bottom you can see the banking pins. And you can see that the watch, the banking, the best I can do here is that the watch is, the pallet fork is too much that way, because it's making the back of the pallet fork go the other way, right? So which means the jewel is too much that way. So I got to do the math on that and see which way I got to push it. So it's too much this way. See if I sway that banking, that if I move the movement over, when it settles down, it's yeah, the pallet fork is over on this side here. Pallet fork's on this side, so I need to move, and that means that the hairspring, see if I can think about this one here, pallet fork's on that side. I'm going to draw this just so you can see it. I can figure it out myself because I'm confused. I should be pushing it the other way is what I think I should be doing. But yeah, if you're where's the pen? Here's the pen. So I apologize for these crazy diagrams here. Live action diagrams. I'm moving my camera down a bit. There we go. Get this out of the way. So in this case, here's the balance. I'll just draw the pallet fork and the spring. So I'm doing it from my position. So the impulse jewel is this way, and this is, I'm going to make a big giant pallet fork mouth like that. And the impulse jewel is over on this side. And so what's happening then is it's driving the pallet fork, and I can see it on the other end. There's the banking pins. One's over here and one's way over here. So it's driving it that way, right? So that's and that's attached to the balance, right? There's the balance there. And so if the balance has got to go this way, and you just looked at the collet, let's say this is a big collet here, and there's a groove in the collet like that, and then the hairspring is of course wrapped around here like this. Which way is it wrapped around? It's going around this way like that. So what you're saying is that if I were to put a screwdriver in here like this, a big screwdriver blade in here, this is my big screwdriver, and there's my collet with my hairspring, and there's my impulse jewel, and what I want to do is move this way. So I've got to move, if I were to hold on to that balance and just pull it this way like that, and hold that collet, or the collet exactly where it is, right? The collet would be rotating the other way. So I would rotate the balance this way, effectively turning the collet this way, like that. So what I got to do is open that up, turn the collet just a bit, and then look and see where this resides now. Is it going to be, it's got to move this way more. That's my math, okay? If you got that, there it is there. So hopefully you got that math. So this has to move this way more because the banking pins, it's more on this side, and to move it that way you got to move the collet for the hairspring the other way by sticking a screwdriver in there and just rotating it slightly. So I'm going to do that. And while I've got it apart, I may just take this hairspring, or take the balance off, throw it up in the balance chuck, and see if I can take a little tiny bit more material off that upper pivot. I'm a brave, brave man. So I don't want to be that brave, but I am brave. So to do that, I'm just going to drop the balance straight down. I got to loosen this up here. And you really have to watch that you're not going to, your screwdriver is not going to slip into the hairspring. That's critical. So I can move the balance a lot easier by doing it like this. So I'm just going to poke that out here. Grab the balance here. The balance cock actually. Like this, and then I just want to push the stud out so I have no problems with the stud being in the way. There we go. So that's an easy way to remove it. So like what I said before, this collet needs to go counterclockwise. So I'm going to lift that out of the watch like so, and I'm just going to put it down here for a second because I want to get my bench block out, and I'm doing way too much work today. I get my bench block out and just put that in the bench block so I've got some control. And find a hole that can accept this hole there without, sort of, it's tight enough. I don't have to worry about it too much if it's in like that, right? So what I want to do now is just rotate this collet counterclockwise ever so slightly. It doesn't take much. So put this in here and then need a bigger screwdriver. What is that? White. I need probably black or red. White, yellow, red might do. But what I don't want to do is loosen the there we go. I moved it ever so slightly. And I can't obviously test this yet because I want to put everything back together again. So this is the end of my video for today.